Hey everyone, thank you for listening to another episode of Spoiler Force Podcast. You can find all episodes on any podcasting platform like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and watch episodes on YouTube. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and make sure to follow Spoiler Force on all social media platforms at Spoiler Force Podcast.
Hey, everybody, this is Michael Yurchak, and you are listening to Spoiler Force Podcast.
All right, so this is episode 110 of Spoiler Force Podcast. My name is Ricky, and thank you for tuning in. This week's guest is someone I am excited to have. As you can see on the title screen here, I have Michael Yurchak. He's an overall voice actor. He's seen him on TV, on such shows like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. He does the voice of Obito, Jet the Hawk from Sonic. So let me just bring him on here. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Good to be here.
I am a huge Naruto fan, and a lot of the followers I have here, they all love Naruto. Mm-hmm. So I know that you've done a lot of on-screen and theatrical work as well, but for voice acting specifically, how did you get into that?
That was an interesting story. I moved back to LA, so I had lived in Los Angeles for about 10 years. And then I went to New York for 5 years, and then I moved back to Los Angeles and really wanted to get more happening with animation. I had done a couple shows in New York and was kind of excited to get going with stuff. And a friend of mine suggested that I just reach out directly to the folks at the studio where Naruto is recorded. And I did, and sent them my demo and my representation and all of that kind of stuff, and just said, "Look, I'd love to be involved. I know that you guys do a lot of stuff. If you ever have anything, I'd appreciate you keeping me in mind." That kind of email very often just goes away. It like doesn't go very far. But for whatever reason, Jamie Simone, the guy that runs the joint, called me in almost immediately, and the first thing I read for him was for Tobi on Naruto, and so Shippuden had just started their dubbing, and the Naruto proper had already finished all of its episodes, and they were into Shippuden, and Tobi changes identity and becomes kind of more of like a lighthearted kind of clownish character. And that was the very first thing I read, and I got it. And that ended up spilling into many years. It was probably 4 or 5 years of doing just Tobi, and then recording the way it would work for us was that the video games would come out every couple of years, and they would actually tell more of the story than we even knew, because the episodes weren't released in America yet, but the stories were all finished because the episodes in Japan had already been completed years ago. So the video game would tell us the future, and in the video game, the spoiler, and I hope it's not spoiling it for anybody now, although I guess there may be some new fans out there, but the spoiler of Tobi becoming Obito, or revealing that he is Obito, occurred in real time right in front of me. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. So now he's a big, bad, dark, terrible character like this. And it was like, it had gone from, oh no, I don't believe it, kind of like silly guy, to, this really more a lot more gravitas and gravel. And I was just kind of messing around with it in the booth. I assumed they were going to use somebody else for it, because there already had been somebody playing sort of a similar character in a similar role, which is Madara. And I didn't totally understand the storyline. So I just assumed that would be the guy that would do it. But as it turned out, they wanted a different voice for the Obito that was revealed. And they heard me doing it and asked if I wanted to play that character too. And I said, of course. And so then I got to do both. And that took me, then that took us through another, few years anyway, which was super fun and exciting. And some days I would go in and record Tobi, and some days I would go in and record Obito, and some days I get to do both. And it was it was a great gig that lasted also an unusual amount of time, because even just the Shippuden years that was probably 7 or 8 years worth of stuff. Not all at once, but yeah, or I should say not constantly. You'd work on a bunch of episodes for a couple of months and then disappear for a couple of months and then come back a couple of months and so on. You never really knew when it was going to end, but it was sweet the whole time. And now with the rebirth on Netflix, it's like getting to do it all over again, which is awesome.
So were you preparing for like the Naruto story as well? Did you read anything or watch anything prior?
It honestly, that wasn't the way it worked, because at that time when we were really recording this stuff, even the streaming services didn't exist yet, right? So cable was there, but you'd have to have a very specific package to have any of the networks that would have carried that, the early versions of the Japanese subs. And I didn't know anything about that world at all. So the short answer is no, I didn't know anything. They didn't tell us the stories. I didn't get the stories. We never got the scripts. I didn't watch it. And I couldn't have either. It wasn't really available. Now, the stuff is out there a little bit more. And because Netflix and other streaming services are, make it so easy to kind of pick stuff up and watch, you could do a little bit more prep. But in our case, honestly, like, and I would think if you talk to other Naruto actors, most people hadn't seen, a minute of it before they started recording.
I think the only other Naruto actor I've met was actually just Miley Flanagan. I think she was the first one I've actually met.
Nice.
I met her at a convention. But I wanted to ask you as well, like seeing the overall development of Obito going from like Tobi to revealing that he's Madara, but then he's not. And I know that in the English dub adaptation, there was multiple voices for him, so it was kind of like throwing some clues out there. But then when the mask is taken off and you see that it's Kakashi's friend, what was your thoughts on that?
It was totally like, oh, I mean, I think I responded just like the fans do, because by that point, at the very least, I may not have known all the storylines and understood totally what was going on, but definitely all the characters that I interacted with, Kakashi and Sasuke and Naruto and Madara and so on, like any of that stuff, the writing is right there for you. So you see it and then you play it and you're seeing these clips play out in front of you. That's how we record. We watch little bits of it and then we pick that up, a little bit at a time. And, so when the reveal happens, it's just like, oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. And it's like, also makes the Tobi character that much more sort of, interesting, because as an actor, I loved playing Tobi and the goofy version of Tobi, but so like, he is basically just Datara's, sort of lapdog for the whole first 4 seasons that he's around, and always just kind of cowering for Datara. And though he does get to sow a little bit of, he gets to cause a little trouble and stuff, and there's some pretty great scenes with him, but he is mostly sort of, oh no, Datara, I'm like a schoolgirl in love with her senpai. All of that is like sort of it. That's his whole thing, is like just being like, ooh, and which is fun, really fun to play. But for that character to then become this kind of like brooding badass who wants to end the entire world is awesome, and to get to play both of them was totally, just a dream. It was great.
Yeah, there was like I remember watching the Japanese sub, and I had some uncles that were reading the manga before before all the animation came out, so they were like, we really think that it's Obito, but then at the time it's just all theories and speculations.
Yeah.
And so when that gets revealed, I remember just like I couldn't help myself. I kind of created some villains as well, because I spoiled it on Facebook initially, and then now because I did that, it like rippled effect into some of my friends. Are like, you know what? We're not going to spoil anything. We're not going to get spoiled by anyone anymore. So we're going to spoil things for other people too. So I'm like, oh man, I just created a whole like group of villains because I spoiled Obito being Toby. So just watching like it's still like clear in my head just remembering how big of an impact that character was in the show. And then when it gets to the part where him and Kakashi fight one on one, and you see the flashbacks of them being kids and going back and forth. Like since you're watching that on screen, what was going through your head seeing all of that unfold?
Well, so during that whole sequence, which took like a couple sessions to do, maybe 3 or 4 sessions to do, was so awesome because that's a lot of that backstory I actually didn't have. So it was, I mean, that was nice to kind of get, other than being told. Our directors were always really great, and so they would. Mary Elizabeth McGlynn and a bunch of others would sort of talk you through what had happened, what was going to happen, who was where, and what was going on. But I still hadn't seen much of it, and so then getting to like putting a face, even just to see some of the stuff with Reen and all of the stuff with Kakashi when they were kids and all the rest of it, and was awesome. And then for me, well, two things. First of all, that story was so incredible because Obito is slow. First of all, explains where all this sort of hatred and villainy comes from, which is from a place of pain, and from a place of deep care for the humankind. So I mean, all he wants is to spare the universe the kind of pain he felt that he's endured. Now that's a little bit narcissistic, and and his motives and his plan was a little ill-advised, but still, the fact that it comes from that and not just a desire to see pain, not just a desire to kind of sow havoc and mess everybody's world up and so on, is awesome. And then the fact that he comes around and is able to be persuaded that he's made a mistake ends up allowing him to commit the greatest sacrifice, which is of himself, and go on to achieve Hokage, which is amazing, right? So it's like it all comes full circle, and that whole time I was like, ooh, that's deep. Ooh, that's awesome. Oh, there he goes, and just like the whole time through is just super cool. And again, as an actor, that whole thing was super fun and exciting to play because those are like page long. I mean, I don't know. It's a sort of thing where it's like, you got to be into the show. They couldn't have led with that, right? Because there are these long monologues and they're all just floating around in space, like sort of philosophizing about the way the world works and humankind should treat one another better. And there's no light without the dark. And it's all of it is beautiful, but also it's heavy as hell, right? So it's like he's saying all this stuff, and as an actor, you're looking at all that, and it's like, wow, this is some heavy lifting, which again, we're excited to do, and it was totally my honor to get to play it. But it was all at once. Like the fan part of me was super psyched just to kind of see what was going on, and then the actor part of me was like a little nervous, but also super psyched to get to play it. So there you go.
Does it surprise you at times, like when you see anime or just cartoons having messages like that, like
This
deep,
totally,
profound messages?
yeah, this one did surprise me. I had never seen it before, and I honestly, I don't know that I've seen it since. This for me is what is as meaningful and poignant a storyline as I've read or seen anywhere in any literature or theater or film or or I mean, let alone animation. So I was totally surprised, and like I loved it, and I was writing down all these things. I was it was just one of those sessions really where uh well, I shouldn't say one of those. It was probably the most unique session I've ever had, because I was sitting there, my mind was being blown 3 different ways, and I'm getting to do it all. And it was just like, this is just awesome, because yeah, it is deep, and it's like, and I don't, it's, I guess it's that sense that he admits that what he was doing was because he wanted to spare other people the pain he got. That in and of itself is a deep concept. He's then told, well, wait a second, if they don't ever know pain, then they can also never know true joy. And that's a deep concept. And then he actually allows himself to be convinced of that and admits that he was wrong. That's like maybe the deepest concept of all, because whoever admits that they're wrong, like nobody does, let alone somebody who has, the power of the universe at their disposal, right? Like, I mean, so it's like it just doesn't happen. So those three things happening, those three things going down all at once, it's just like, it's just like, oh my God, this is awesome. So that's how I felt. Yeah, totally surprised, just shocked. It's awesome.
Yeah, that's what made Obito one of my favorite characters. Just seeing his fall from grace like that, and
Yeah,
he does what he thinks is best when he sacrifices himself initially in the beginning of his story,
right.
saving Kakashi and Rin, and then when he comes back and he's just almost in a way like Darth Vader in a sense, where like
Yeah,
he has all this hate and he's just so angry at the world, and then to see him come back at the end and to help Naruto and help them fight the villain at the end, Kaguya. I absolutely loved his overall story. And then like again, a lot of my friends are Naruto, like they all love Naruto. And actually Naruto is one of the animes that I recommend to anyone who's starting to watch anime. Like for me, that's my go-to anime. And just I absolutely love Obito's character. And I'm so glad that, again, I'm speaking to you. And also as well, I'm like, it was just so coincidental that when you emailed me, I didn't realize like this week was the 15th year of Naruto, like just the anniversary.
I
So
actually
thank you
didn't
for
realize
that.
that either.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome.
it was just so
Yeah,
coincidental.
yeah, yeah, that's great.
I noticed. I know that you do get like a lot of questions from fans that love anime, like from going to conventions. I know you've been to one recently, right? Was it WeebCon?
WeebCon in Dallas. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Are you planning to go to any more conventions as well?
I'm doing a signing in Phoenix the weekend of March 3rd, and it is, so let me just see here. It is on March 5th, actually. Sorry. So yeah, it's at a toy shop in Phoenix, which I'm super psyched about. That's just a 1-day thing, and then I don't have anything else on the books coming up, but there'll be some other stuff in the near future. I know. And this stuff comes up all the time. This thing is at Toy Temple headquarters in Tempe, Arizona. Sorry, Tempe, Arizona. So, if anybody's out there, March 5th, 10 a.m., and I'll be there together with Neil Kaplan. So, Neil and I will be signing, and we do this thing where we do the "What? I don't believe it." Kidding. And then Neil it's just as I expected. He drops into that. So we'll kind of be riffing on that all day, and we hope to see you guys out there.
Yeah, I'm glad to see conventions like slowly come back.
Yeah.
Throughout this pandemic, it's been crazy. It's been a crazy couple of years now, but
Yeah.
I love seeing how interactive, especially voice actors. Like I don't think you guys get the kind of love that you guys deserve at conventions. Because especially if it's a big con, right? Because you see all the TV show actors, whether like for example like Walking Dead or the movie actors and stuff like that. So it's only like specifically like the anime community or people who love cosplay I'd come and see you guys. And I've come to really just appreciate voice actors as well when I meet them at conventions, because I didn't realize like how, not saying you guys are different, but I feel like it's very down to earth meeting you guys
Yeah.
in person. It's not like because we're so excited to meet the person behind the voice, and then we
Yeah.
connect you guys with the characters that we love too.
Well, I love that. Yeah, I mean, it's not that that on-camera actors are not nice people, but
Right.
I will say that voice actors tend to be a pretty cool crowd. Everybody's pretty down to earth and friendly, and it's just it takes away the ego of the face is kind of gone, and so that it all becomes sort of like it feels it feels like a great leveler, and everybody just kind of takes everything with a little bit more of a grain of salt, maybe, I guess.
So how did it feel like to meet fans again since going back to conventions?
It was great, but listen, I actually before COVID, I had not done any cons. I really, the that world somehow never really opened up to me before. I was around, I was recording, I was on the show, I was doing it, but I had never, as I said, like I had no experience with with anime specifically, as a fan, and certainly not with cons. And so I didn't understand how people were getting booked on these things. And I assumed if people wanted me, they would ask for me. And I guess because I didn't know much about the show, I also didn't know that my character was significant. So, but until the very end. So when I was playing Toby, especially, I would go in and have these short sessions and come in and do a little silly stuff and whatever. But I understood that the show was much larger than that, and I didn't really know how big of an impact he had. So when I wasn't invited to do cons, I just assumed that I didn't make the guest list, basically. Um, I came to find out much later that actually, most of the time people are sort of presenting or pitching themselves on these things or having people pitch for them. And I didn't, I just, it didn't work out that way for me. So I had just started to piece together, having finished the final season of recording for Obito. This is obviously a big character now. I get it, and it's sort of important. I wonder if I could do some cons, and I started to put feelers out to ask if it was possible, and then COVID started. And
Oh,
so I went, away from that. And during COVID, three things happened. One was uh, people started to reach out to me online, and I was doing things like this, podcasts here and there, and or like radio or television appearances, just as like someone to be interviewed. Um, at all different scales, I mean, kids from their bedrooms, to more, professional stuff and so on. And that was the first thing. And the second thing was Netflix picked up the show and dropped it, and that was big, because it sort of created a whole new fan base. And then the third thing was that a booking agent called Celebworks, which deals specifically with booking actors and voice actors on at cons, um, reached out and asked me if I wanted them to try submitting me to some stuff, and I said, of course, through a friend, and I said I'd love that. And so then the very first thing I did was coming out of uh, COVID, although obviously we're still in it, but coming where cons first started coming back out, January of this year, January 2022, for Pasadena Anime Con, and that was great. Um, and then WeebCon was after that, and then we'll see what comes next. So yeah, it's kind of been it's all brand new to me, and it's amazing. But being out there, it was also that's another thing. It's like I'm a kid in a candy store because I've never been. I'd been to the big Comic-Con in San Diego. I did a panel for another show that I did a couple episodes for called Legend of Korra, and so I did a panel for that, and that was cool. But that was overwhelmingly gigantic. I don't know if you've been to Comic-Con, but it's like it's so big, and it was I assumed none of the stuff that I would be doing would be quite that large scale. But then so going to Pasadena Anime Con and also WeebCon was just it's such a trip. Like I've never really all the cosplayers and all the merch and all the the other actors, and it's just so fun. And it is and it's it's awesome to get to meet people. And yeah, that I feel almost silly saying our fans, but they're our fans. We love them, and they are amazing and supportive and super fun and kind to us, and signing stuff. And doing selfies and videos and seeing people in the restaurant and saying hello and all the rest of it is just like it's amazing. It's amazing. It's a great feeling.
Yeah, I've been to a few comic conventions. Not San Diego though. I that's one that's on my bucket list. I have to at least
Yeah,
go there once.
it's
Um,
big.
yeah, it's insane because I remember trying to get tickets one time because I know someone that has like apparently it's like a lifetime thing with San Diego. They get like notifications when the tickets drop before they
Mhm.
give it to the public,
Oh, that's
and
good.
so he was gonna hook me up with that, but I refused it because of just finances. But then,
Mhm.
I was just checking online. I remember like I forgot exactly what year, but there was one year where the tickets sold under like 45 minutes, and it was just insane because
Yeah.
it's so international. Like, you got everyone from all over the world going in there, and just I don't even think like a 4-day thing is long enough for San Diego. There's just so much to do from what I've
Mhm.
seen, and let alone going to like smaller conventions or like just local ones. There's so much to do at conventions, whether it's meeting people, meeting new artists, people who do content creating, like a lot of networking there. I think it's great to see like a lot of people just finally enjoy the whole like nerdom or like the whole cosplay and
Yeah.
all that. It's
Yeah.
a great hub for all that.
Yeah, no, it's super fun. And and it's like, and again, that's another, it's the environment is really friendly and kind, and people are good to each other. And it's at least from what I've seen, I mean, it's a pretty big group of people. You'd expect there to be some troublemaking, but as far as I've seen at the it's just been two. But it's been everybody's been very, very enthusiastic, but totally respectful of us and each other. And it's just been, it's super cool and really fun to be a part of.
Have you seen any I guess Obito or Toby cosplayers at all? I know
Oh
cosplay is a
yeah.
huge thing now too.
Yeah, yeah, lots and lots and lots of Tobys. And then as for the Obitos, yes, yes, some, but mostly Tobys. There are some. I think there's a new Funko Pop coming out of Obito. That's what I heard, actually. A fan told me, so I don't know for sure. But I have heard that there's a new Funko Pop coming out, because there is a Toby one, but there isn't an Obito one. And
Right.
so there were a bunch of little Obito. This woman gave me this great Obito keychain. And it was like, oh, this is perfect for a Funko. And she's like, yeah, I think there's one coming out. So, we'll see. But yeah, so they're all good.
Yeah, anime merch is insane too, right? Because like
Yeah.
there's so much things you can buy, whether it's like plushies or like you said, the Funkos or posters. When folks bring you up like just your characters, whether it's in like in a toy version or posters, like what goes through your head? They're just saying that that like that's pretty much you when you see that.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I'll tell you, the first time anything like that happened, and this is when I started to get an understanding of how big the show was. I went to pick my son up from a play date, and when he was little, and he and his buddy were playing in his buddy's big brother's room, and in the room there was a shrine to Naruto, and all the characters, little action figures of all the characters, including Toby. And I was like, I had never seen anything like that before. And I was like, oh my god, I play that guy. And he couldn't believe it, and I couldn't believe it, and that was cool. That same year, somebody came to our house dressed as Toby for Halloween, and that was like, I'm that guy, so we did pictures, and that was cool. And then we went to again, just a coincidence. We were in Little Tokyo in downtown LA, and went to a noodle shop for dinner and so on. And then we were walking back through the streets and just poking around and stuff. And we stopped at a comic store for my kids, and there was, I don't know if you could see it in the background here, but there's a little Toby doll right there.
Okay, I see it.
And they that was there, and I was like, hey. And I said to the guy at the behind the counter, I was like, I play that character. And he first, he didn't believe me, and so then I did the voice, and he's like, I don't believe it. And I was like, yeah, I'm kidding, and it was like and he could, he's totally blown away. And so then I signed a bunch of stuff for him, and he gave me the doll and all the rest of it. And it was, just sort of a fun little thing. And so seeing that people cared enough to want to have a thing that represented something that I got to do is super cool. And then, and now I've got t-shirts, and there's a mask, and and a keychain, and the doll, and the Funko, and whatever else. And it's like, it's just super fun. And it's neat because it's like, we'll have those forever, and my kids love them, and the whole thing. So it's cool.
That's the thing about like what I love about like animation and cartoons, because again, Naruto is one of the big animes that's out there. Whether you're a big anime fan or not, you know what that show is.
Yeah.
And to be cemented in that cast of just being one of the main characters, that's something that I would like. Me personally, I would brag about that. I'd be like, hell yeah, that's me right there. That's me. I would brag about that.
I
A
don't
lot.
brag about it, but I do every so often. Like, what'll happen is if I see someone wearing a Naruto t-shirt, especially if it's a kid, but if it's someone that looks friendly, or it's a kid, when I'm out and about, either a Naruto t-shirt, or like if they've got a Naruto, like lots of the people have stickers of them on the sides of their cars or whatever. And definitely if it's a Tobi sticker or a Tobi shirt or whatever, I'll say, hey, are you a fan of the show? And they, will say yes. And I'll tell them, I'm, I play that guy, or, I play that guy, and they dig it, and it's fun. It's like just a fun little thing that happens, and it's just sort of fun, when it does.
Aside from just voice acting, Michael, again, you've done like on-screen and theatrical work. Have you? I guess what goes through your mind, like seeing the differences of just doing a different take of acting or entertainment? Because I had Mark Whitten on my podcast not too long ago, and he talks about like the differences of on-screen and voice acting. Like with voice acting, you can express yourself way differently than you can on screen,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it comes to like the screaming or like being in pain or something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
what's your thoughts on that, like when you do on-screen acting versus like voiceover?
Right. Well, so there it is a lot different. There's more the limitations of voice of being in the booth end up being like these things that really set a whole bunch of stuff free too. So because you're not worried about what you're looking like, and nobody else has to worry about it either, you can really kind of do whatever you want, and like get all crazy and stuff, and it lends itself to the performance, and you're giving a performance that feels like it's generated from some of that physicality, which I love doing. I'm a physical actor. So that actually is not so different from the way I play on stage, like, right. So theatrical acting. And that's my background, is sort of classical theater and so on. And so I that I might not ham it up quite as much, but there is I'm a physical actor, especially when I'm figuring stuff out. I like to move around with it, and kind of find gesture, and find facial expressions and things like that kind of feel like they bring out the truth of the character, and add some layers to whatever it is I'm doing. But so I keep looking down because I've got a brand new puppy who is, currently chewing on my bag down here. There he is.
Adorable.
But so I'm just making sure he's not ripping anything to pieces. But anyway, when I'm on camera, it's got to be it's got to be a lot smaller. Everything has to be smaller. And so everything kind of the same amount of preparation and process has to be there, but it all goes sort of like to the inside, and it becomes, they say that, so theater, they say, is output, it's dynamic, and on camera is magnetic. You're pulling people in. So it is a different kind of performance, where it's going from out to in instead of from in to out. And that's how I would describe it. It's not necessarily scientific, but they're both wonderful and fun in lots of different ways. I just finished doing a movie called Quasi, which is by the guys in this group called Broken Lizard that made a lot of they made a bunch of movies together. And the biggest one being Super Troopers, which is a big movie that people seem to know a lot about. But I've done all of their films, and those guys have been real generous with me along the way. And Quasi is the latest one, and we just finished shooting in December, so it should be out, I think, this summer. Probably dropping on Netflix, maybe with like a limited theatrical too.
You know, I saw the clip where you were the Christmas elf and It's Always Sunny, and
Yeah.
I didn't know you sang. So you know, to do that, what was, you know, how did you prepare for that? Like, how long have you been? I know you started with theater first, so have you
Yeah.
always been singing as well?
You know, I guess I always have sung. I would not call myself a singer as much as I am an actor who sings, which is like there's theater speak that means something. You know, for anybody who's out there, like in the world of musical theater, there are singers, there are musical theater singers, there are and then there are actors who sing, meaning like you're an actor first, but you can carry a tune. And that's how I would describe myself. I sing like I'm a campfire guitar player singer, you know. Um, but I don't have any sort of illusions about being able to be, you know, like a big leading male in a giant musical. But doing character voice and singing is something that I've done a lot of, especially in the theater and so on. And I've always loved doing it. I just hadn't had much chance. I hadn't had much, you know, cause or occasion to. But then that thing came up, and I just, you know, I auditioned, you know, just like any other audition, in a booth somewhere, just singing the song the best I could, got it, and then it was like, okay, so just come in ready to record. And I didn't know what was going to happen. You know, like I went and I went in, and I remember, so like Fred Savage was there directing the episode and everything. And I was like, hey, listen, you know, I mean, I'm not a singer, you know, like, just so you know, so I will do exactly as you tell me to, and I will try it as much as you need me to. And like, I'm an actor and I am a voice guy, and I'm super psyched to be here. And I'll need the direction of, you know, a musical director, because if you need something fancy to happen, because I can do what I can do. And I was really nervous. I sort of threw it out on the table that I was like, I felt like I was kind of a fish out of water. And they were like, do exactly what you've been doing. And I just, you know, I did it, and it worked out great, you know. And it was super fun. Sorry, the dog is crying.
Oh,
Buddy,
that's
come here.
okay.
I'm gonna let him out. I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. Back. Sorry about that.
It's understandable. You know, I have two dogs of my own as well. So
Nice.
I have one sadly passed away last year.
Oh,
She was a Morkie, and then I have another one that's a Jack Terrier and Yorkie mix. She was a rescue, and she's getting pretty old. She's like 12, so she's really mellowed out right now. So
yeah. I love
but, you know,
Yorkies. They're super cute.
yeah, very sassy dogs. You know,
Are they?
yeah, well, mine, the one that passed away sadly, she was a mix of a Maltese and a Yorkie, but like she had so much of the
A
the Yorkie
Yorkies?
character. Yeah, yeah, she's so sassy, man. Like,
Yeah.
oh, her name is Lilo, like from Lilo and Stitch. So
Nice.
my dad picked her up one day and told me my sister, like, you know, you guys can have a dog if you want. And it's funny because he was someone who never liked animals. But then because me and my sister were like, you know, we want one. He's like, fine. Then if I get one, you guys have to take care of it. And my mom's the same thing too. She was like, you know, why would you guys want a dog? And like within the first year of just having her, my mom like flipped. She's like, I love dogs. Now she's like cuddling the dog and like
Yeah.
kissing the dog and like playing with her now. And so, you know, I love the Yorkie breed, but man, like just they're just, for being such small little creatures, how just bossy they are. I'm just like, they're like kids. It's just insane.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this guy is he's amazing. He's sort of he looks a lot like a golden retriever, but he's got, I mean, he's a mutt. We don't know exactly what he is. His face looks like a golden, but then I think he's got something smaller in him too, because he doesn't look like he's going to get that big. But right now he's just all puppy. And I've never we have an older dog that we adopted as an older dog. And but we've never had a puppy before, and he is just like having a baby. It's
Yeah.
amazing. He cries and whines and pees and poops and does all the things, and and he gets super naughty sometimes, and then he feels bad, and it's just like it's hilarious. He's such a personality.
How's your older dog taking in such a young one coming in the
Yeah,
family?
he's good. You can tell you can tell he's sort of like, I think he's depressed a little bit, honestly. Like I think he's like, what is the meaning of this? But at the same time, he does see that we love him still, and he's, every so often you'll catch him being tolerant of the little one, and that's now we've had him for about 3 weeks, and so I think he knows now that he's probably not going anywhere, so he's made peace with it.
Yeah, like with my two dogs being so much older, like when we first got my two dogs, they're only like a year, not even a year apart, so they practically grew up together. But
Mhm.
then whenever we'd have to dog sit someone else's dog, or like have someone with the dog come over to our house and just have like a doggy play date, man, my dogs hated other dogs. I don't know why. I think it's just like me and my sister, like just I guess because we're so like in a way introverted. We don't have a lot of guests over, and
Mhm.
so like my dogs are kind of like that. They kind of pick that up too. So when other dogs come by, they're like, "We don't want to get to know you." They could get away from us.
Yeah, yeah.
If you want to start your own podcast like Spoiler Force, then sign up with Buzzsprout. Buzzsprout has helped hundreds of thousands of users like me to begin their podcasting journey. With easy to use tools, you can effectively get your podcast into different platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and more. You can view your stats, create audio clips, and even have your own podcasting website. Buzzsprout offers ideas, tips, tricks, and tutorials to help you improve your podcast. Follow the link below, and once you sign up, you'll get a $20 Amazon gift card. This will let Buzzsprout know that I sent you and will also support Spoiler Force Podcast. If you want a simpler way to record both video and audio for your podcast, then sign up with StreamYard. StreamYard is the perfect program to create podcasts, host live streams, and even do video calls. There are many tools that can help you create and design your own personal studio. You can screen share, read live comments, and stream to different destinations like Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. You can also download your video and audio once you're done with your recording session. Follow the link below, and once you sign up with the basic or pro plan, you'll earn a $10 credit to use for StreamYard. Happy podcasting. But just back to just like your acting career, man. Like I said, just um being in it, being in It's Always Sunny. I just thought that was just a funny scene. Seeing claymations like that, and then
Yeah.
just your character singing the song. Were you able to meet anyone of the cast at all besides just Frank Savage, like the director?
Not really. They were not there. Danny Devito happened to be in the studio as I was coming in, and I got the quick chance to say, hey, it was, I'm a big fan. But yeah, the guys were not really there, or if they were, I mean, I'm sure they were somewhere around, but I didn't really see them very much. But it was, but Fred Savage though actually was, he was a big star on TV when I was a kid. And he was in this show called The Wonder Years, and I was always told that I kind of looked like him. And when I was little, I grew up in Chicago, and he's a Chicago guy also. And so I just sort of have always kind of felt a kinship with him, or a connection with him. And so actually getting to be in an episode that he was directing was super fun. And I told him those things, and he was like, "Oh, that's great." So yeah, not the whole cast though.
I really enjoy seeing like when people that for example, like when I see actors that I like geek out about actors that they like,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
I always like that. It just really brings it down to like it's a more personal thing. Like like, oh my god, they geek out just like us too. So
Yeah.
was there anyone that you've met over the years that you were like just shocked, or like even at all?
Well, yeah, so I got a couple of these actually. So one is, do you know who Brian Cox is? Do you ever, the show Succession?
Yes. Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Succession is giant now. So he is the the patriarch, the big daddy in Succession. I was a fan with his though long before that. He's he's like this sort of like acclaimed theater actor, and then also has done a bunch of big movies and so on. But he was in the original Super Troopers, which and then Super Troopers 2 as well. So with this group Broken Lizard. So I always work with those guys, and I got to meet him a couple of times. And it was, I mean, with him, it's like, wow, this is royalty. This is the real deal. And that is super cool. And a weird story, a backwards version of this is that when I first got into the business, I was a PA for a summer on a movie called A River Runs Through It. And that summer I was 19, and Brad Pitt, who was the, sort of co-lead in that show, that movie, was 26 and just breaking out. He had just Thelma and Louise, which was his first sort of breakout movie, was out, but his next movie was not released yet. I think this movie called Cool World, which he did with Kim Basinger, was in the can, but he had not become the Brad Pitt we all know today at all yet. So this is way back in God, this was like 1992. It was a long time ago. And he and I were, and my other friend, my buddy Jake Snyder, whose grandfather had written the book, which is how we got the gig, were best buddies. Like we hung out all the time. We went to bars together. We, went hiking together. We did stuff together. Just because we were three guys in our early 20s, basically. And I have not seen him since. Then he obviously has blown up quite a bit. And I haven't seen him since, but I always wonder, what if I bumped into him? Could I get close enough to him to quickly try to tell the story of who I am and put myself in context? Because I know if I could tell him, like, I was craft service, or I was a PA and I did one of my jobs as a PA, that was, though it was a big movie by, most people's standards, for Hollywood standards, it was a relatively small movie. They didn't have a proper craft service guy, that's like the snack table you see on sets. So they gave it to me. I was just the PA that had to deal with it, me and my buddy. And so we would just buy a whole bunch of snacks and put them on a table and be like, here we go. And we didn't know what we were doing, and it wasn't what people were used to. And people always just thought we were ridiculous and all the rest of it. And so we learned so much that summer because neither of us had ever really had much of a job at all, camp counselor and that kind of stuff, but nothing in the business, nothing in the entertainment business. We didn't know our way around a set. We didn't know our way around the politics of a set or the different departments or anything like that. And we had to learn all of it kind of on the fly. And then in the meantime, we're, running around and hanging out with this dude who was about to become the biggest movie star in the world. And if I could see him again, it would be sort of like a, hey, remember me? Like I'd have to get it out as quickly as I could to see if he would remember, if he would be cool about it. He'd definitely remember. He's not going to forget that movie. So I don't know. So I always think about that. I wonder, maybe he's a fan of this show, listen and give me a call.
I hope so. I hope that happens for you too, Michael. Just meeting people who I haven't had any chances to meet any actors that were going to blow up, but then I have gone to concerts and stuff where I've seen bands before they blew up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like, almost in a way, it's kind of relatable to that, meeting some of these
totally.
artists, and then when you see them blow up, it's like, man, you kind of just remember seeing them before they got big. So
yeah,
I like that, that you were able to see or be near Brad Pitt like that. That's really cool, to see him before the come up, and just to see how, even as an actor like yourself, just to be able man, that's a possibility, you were working next to someone like that.
Yeah.
I looked on your website as well. I seen that you also do classes for, was it just for voice acting, or was it just acting in general?
It's acting in general. I do teach voiceover. I work I teach privately and do sort of one-on-one coaching and things like that. But I also I have my PhD in educational theater, so I teach at a conservatory, and there I teach voice for the actor. So it's a little bit different. It's there, voiceover might be involved, but it's kind of more about creating healthy dynamic sound and that kind of stuff that you'd have to do in a theater setting or on film. Um, and then I teach a basic acting class as well. So yeah, I love teaching. I started doing it a long time ago, um, and it just it clicked with me, and it also is kind of for me. It's a great even. It's a great way of balancing my life. Being an actor can be a little bit crazy. The thing they say about it being feast or famine really is true. And I'm a dad, and I've got two little boys and a wife and a house and all the sort of the things that sort of look pretty normal from the outside. We do things a little differently at our house, but uh, something that felt like a grounding force was important for me. And then it's like the intellectually it was just important for me. I was feeling sometimes I was having feelings in my sort of late 20s, early 30s that I wasn't necessarily going in the best direction in terms of I don't know, I guess intellectual potential. So I went back to school a couple times and I knew it felt good to be busy. I knew it felt good to be thinking a lot. I knew it felt good to be writing a lot, and I loved working with other people too, so I kept doing it, and now it's kind of like a parallel career. I do both things pretty seriously and a lot of both, and I like that. And I'll tell you, when I was in school, as an undergrad student and as a graduate student, most of my professors were either, were retired, or maybe not hadn't even really done much in terms of professional work outside of academic performances and so on, which are respectable and excellent. But um, I didn't have anybody that looks the way I do, not physically, but, in terms of, like, career-wise. I didn't have anybody that was on television shows and movies and doing cartoons and things like that, and those were the things I knew I wanted to do, so I was sort of confused by, am I in the right program? Am I doing the right thing? And, so I like to be able to provide that for students, let them know that, "Hey, I'm doing this, and I'm out there working, and I'm out there auditioning, and I'm out there, hustling just like you will be soon." And I'm always happy to talk about it. So yeah, it's been I love teaching. I love kind of giving back, and I love working with people. I do a lot of work, or a fair amount of work with students, who are maybe not necessarily typical learners, also, and that's challenging and rewarding as well. And it's it's a big passion of mine, that side of things.
With social media growing so much now, I love seeing how it's opened doors for people who want to go into the arts, whether it's theater or voice acting or just on screen acting. I think that's great that you're able to even still, like, whether you can choose to still teach in person or even through video calls like this. I think opportunities like that it's very helpful for those who want to pursue those careers. And I was never too into it growing up, but I watched a lot of cartoons as a kid, so I always thought that I had a shot at being like a voice actor, and so I saw how strenuous it was at times, or like to see like how much effort it goes into it before social media became a thing, or even how big the internet got. So like, you know, I love seeing like how actors like you or other voice actors who give back and give opportunities to people who think that they don't have that shot.
Well, thank you. I mean, and for what it's worth, remember too, there are lots of different kinds of voice acting. Not everything that's voice acting involves being in a cartoon, So it's like what you're doing right now, being comfortable behind the mic and speaking in your own voice, and having honest conversation with people, and talking about stuff that matters to you. That is the foundation of every good read. That's sort of like if you can take that honesty and authenticity and pour it into a piece of commercial copy, you're a commercial actor. If you can take that honesty and authenticity and pour it into a slightly longer piece of copy, you know, uh, you could be the narrator for a documentary or an on a reality kind of show. And then of course the acting part of it is a little more strenuous, and the vocal part of it is a little bit more strenuous when you start to add the extreme circumstances of what usually is involved in a cartoon world. But that's only part of the work. And I think everybody sort of wishes they could just do cartoons, but the truth is, everybody you'll meet from the voiceover world, we all do commercials, we all do straight narration and things like that, because you gotta work, you gotta keep working and working and working. And the cartoons and everything are I think we would all admit that that's the most fun work we do, at least for us. But there are plenty of great voiceover talented voiceover actors and folks with tons and tons of talent, who aren't necessarily doing that, either by choice or by happenstance. And so don't forget that you are a voice actor, you're doing it right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I just find it like I guess not so much ironic. It's just like talking to the mic and doing podcasts and stuff was something that I never thought that I'd find interesting. Again, like I've said before in this podcast, I grew up really like introverted, so I didn't talk a lot about the things I liked with people until like I got into like high school and or even after I graduated, like where I finally just learned to like I gotta get this out of my system, and
Sure.
podcasts has helped me a lot with like just being able to nerd out on things without
Mhm.
caring what people thought. And being able to have opportunities to speak to people like and other voice actors and cosplayers and all my other guests, it really just helps me to just be more myself, and I really enjoy that.
I love to hear that, man. I mean, listen, to me, the medium of podcasting is just a new art form. All that's really what it is. It is developed into that. And because the way you just described, your relationship with podcasting, and the way you described what a podcast is for you, that is the way artists talk about their work. And so, I mean, no, this is not me blowing smoke. This is not me just trying to be a nice guy. I'm telling you, you just described yourself as an artist, and that's what you are. That's it. Like you're take it from me.
No, that means a lot, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's I'm gonna be very honest. Sometimes like doing this stuff, um, it, I understand like with social media and content creating, it takes years sometimes to even
Mhm.
see some sort of, I guess some sort of end result, right?
Mhm.
And I've been going through a lot of personal things myself, and to hear that from you, man, it's very motivating for myself.
Mm.
I've talked about this previously before on other episodes and on other podcasts. Where I felt like, man, there were days where I just wanted to just quit
Sure.
and not do this, and I don't know, like just something in me was just like don't stop yet, keep going. I have like other people who motivate me and people who talk to me, but like deep down I know that whether it's just podcasting or content creating, like this form of entertainment was something that I realized, like, man, this is something I not just want to do, but I have to do this.
Mm.
This is something I had to express myself in this matter, because if I don't, I might go like crazy or something.
Well, don't do that, but
No.
do keep doing it. Do keep doing it. Yeah, it's amazing. It's great. I love to hear it, and I'm honored to be part of it.
Before we do wrap things up here, Michael, again, thank you so much for just being on this podcast. I again, being a huge Naruto fan, speaking with Obito of all people, man, this is amazing to
Look at
me.
me. There's nothing in my heart. I don't even feel pain anymore.
It's so like I'm still like starstruck in a sense, right? Because like again, Obito is one of those characters where as a young adult, I really just related to this character, and not just me, all my close friends, my family who all love Naruto, man. Like when Obito was such a core character for us, and I have a friend who loves Obito so much, and when he found out that I was having it in the podcast, he was like, he asked me, like, can you get him to sign my Funko Pop? I'm like, I'll try to, but I can't promise you anything. Like
I'd be happy to. What's your friend's name?
his name is T.
T, this is your friend Obito. Always do the right thing, T, because remember, those who disobey the rules are trash, but those who betray their friends are worse than trash.
That is fucking awesome. I love, like, you know, because hearing it in my headphones versus like it's just it amazes me when I hear voice actors just be their characters in person or like through the video calls. I get like chills, and it's just I geek out. I'm like, oh my god, I really have like the voice near me, you know. But I do have some last fan questions here before we
Yeah.
officially wrap things up here. So
Yeah.
I got a couple here. So one is from Tuo Yang. He says, who is your favorite character in Naruto besides Obito?
I love well, you know, Kakashi and Rin and Sasuke and Naruto, of course. You know, the guys that I fought with the most are the ones that I think I love the best. The I've also because I'm a good friend. I'm good friends with Brian Donovan, who's the voice of Rock Lee. That is a character that sort of did less when I was around, so I didn't see him much. While I was recording, but I have since seen a bunch of his episodes, and I'm a big fan of his too. So yeah, all those guys are great.
Yeah, Rock Lee's amazing, man.
Yeah, he's
like,
awesome.
He's the pure he is one of those characters where I was like, you know, I need to be more like that. Like
the thing is, what's great about it too is that the casting on that is so inspired because Brian Donovan actually is like that. He's like like one of the best people I've ever met, and he's just like he's so good, and he gives and he gives and he gives, and hearing him speak the lines, it's like he wrote it. You know, it's sort of unbelievable.
Yeah, Rock Lee's a complete badass character, man.
Yeah, that's great.
And Brian does a great job at him too. I love it. Another question here from Ching Ku. He says, if you could pick any character from any universe and voice, if you could pick any character from any universe to voice, who would it be?
Oof, that's such a tough one. I don't know that I'd take one that's already out there, but I would, to be honest, I would love to, to do some. I'd like to do like a whacktastic kind of character from, a Warner Brothers style show. Like sort of get a little bit loose in that way, or do a, sort of like something like kind of a crossover show like Rick and Morty, one of those kinds of characters. I think I've got some of that stuff in me. So those I think would be fun.
I think you could pull off a Rick and Morty character. Yeah. Like just how whimsical they are at times, and like especially when they meet other aliens, man, it's freaking hilarious.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny stuff.
All right, and the last question here is from Chu Feng Ku. He says, "How did you?" how can I word this? He said, I'm just gonna read it as he wrote it. So he says, how did you break into the entertainment industry as a voice actor? I think we covered a little bit of that in the beginning.
Yeah.
You remember? Was there anything else that you, I guess, remember besides from what we spoke about?
Yeah, so I mean, it's worth saying that it came slowly, and it doesn't happen overnight. It isn't a matter of breaking in; it's a matter of like knocking on the door for years at a time, and being ready when the chance gets there. So I took classes, and I prepared in that way, and I trained, and I did a lot of auditions, and I worked at it, and then eventually I started getting some commercials, and then the commercials turned into some other stuff, and some character driven spots turned into an animation thing here or there, and that turned into Naruto and so on. And so it's a long process, but it's one that the entertainment industry is not always a logical place. There isn't like everybody does it the same way, and then at the end of it, you're all guaranteed a certain amount of success. But there are some things you can do that are logical, which include kind of, you just have to remember there's an amount of training. There's an amount of understanding that's necessary to kind of be good at this thing that so many people want to try to do. It's not the same exactly, but I do often tell people that it's like, you wouldn't buy a violin at a a thrift shop, take a couple lessons, and then go knock on the front door of the Philharmonic and ask if you could have an audition. But people do that all the time with animation. It's sort of like, well, I think I've always liked it. And so I'm going to buy a microphone, try it a little bit, and then hope I get to be in a Disney movie. It doesn't quite happen. Those are pretty giant steps. There are lots of smaller ones in between, and figuring out which ones are right for you is the way to go. So you got to find your own path, but do so like with the respect the work and let the work pay you back too. And kind of, think about it that way, because you can have anything your heart desires, but I think that you got to know that it's not just going to come to you. You got to do the legwork. That's all.
That is great. Yeah, that's great word of advice for anyone who wants to be voice actors too. Because, like you said, I think a lot of folks think that is, especially with technology now too, you could just buy a microphone and plug it into your laptop.
Right.
So,
Which is, and that is an important and awesome new step that didn't exist when I was getting started. So it's like, it's true that you've got the timeline may be even faster, but know that, like, if you got the audition or the job, to be on a big Disney movie, would you be ready? Like, would you know what to do? So figure out those things, like, just so that when the opportunity does come, you are ready, and knowing your way around a microphone, knowing your way around a booth, knowing your way around a conversation, knowing your way around the way a show is laid out and recorded, and the things that you might be asked to do or contribute. It's not stuff that everybody does know. So making it your business to find those things out, and then not just know them, but practice them and get really good at it. And then when it comes time for you to do something, you step right up and knock it out of the park. And that's how you get hired again. That's the thing. You get the first job, and then the deal is how you're going to get the second one. You get the second one by drilling the first one. So that's the way to do it.
That's a great way to end off this podcast. Again, Michael, thank you so much for just your time and being able to just give advice here as well. If there are followers or listeners who want to get to know you more or follow you on social media, how can they do that?
Yeah, please follow me on Instagram is my platform of choice, at Michael Yurchak, and then MichaelYurchak. I'd love to see you. Hit me up, and hopefully I see you out there at one of the cons at some point too.
Hopefully. I'm actually making a move to Dallas in the next couple of days. So my goal here is to be able to hit the smaller
2023.
Yes, hit these cons in Dallas, and hopefully I get to meet you guys. I know there's a huge voiceover network over there in Dallas as well.
Yeah. Funimation.
Yes. But again, Michael, thank you so much for your time, and I
thank you so much.
Cannot say it enough. I really appreciate this. I enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, me too. I appreciate you, man. Thank you very much. Peace and love.
All right. So this is episode 110. Thank you guys, and have a great day. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to give a review and rate Spoiler Force Podcast. If you want to get all Spoiler Force updates or even peeks at behind the scenes, you can join the Spoiler Force Discord community. And if you'd like to show support, give tips, recommendations, sponsorships, or any collaborations, you can email me at rickyvang92@gmail.com.